I'm willing to forgive a little bit of a pause for a thoughtful response.
The question is it good enough for your brand? People value authenticity more than polish. AI is training our BS meters to be really, really fast.
We post every day, and so the comments we get are every time I open LinkedIn, we see you.
Every time. Some of the biggest companies in the world, we used to know them as companies. Now they are often known by their CEOs.
Now, before we get started, I do want to address the elephant in the room. Hey, before we get started, may I ask a favor? And would you hit that subscribe button? It's super easy in this feed-driven algorithmic world to not hit that because videos like this might just show up for you. But by hitting that subscribe button, it tells us that we're actually doing it right, that we're actually creating content and bringing on guests and having conversations that are valuable to you. So if you would do that, we would so appreciate it, and we will do our best to keep bringing valuable content. Thank you. All right, so today is part 2 of frequently asked questions that we get here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. I'm Josh.
And I'm Brian.
And today we will be diving into things like our production approach, publishing cadence and distribution, internal buy-in, stakeholder management, some of those fun words. And then also just like monetization, lead gen, and business outcomes, because ROI is important. Now, before we get started, I do want to address the elephant in the room. I did make a mistake and cut my beard a little too short.
It's not even that bad.
It's horrendous. I'm 36 and I have such a baby face already. And my 7-year-old daughter does not like it. But anyways,
if I were to remove this, you would see like 3 chins. Like it's not good. It's not good.
You gotta do something.
We had way too many questions in last episode, so it's good we were able to continue this. Yes. And I think some of the ones we're gonna hit on this one are a lot more like tactical, a lot more like how do we do this well, especially the question we get all the time of like how do we get sponsorships and things like that.
Exactly. So all right, let's hit on this idea of production, look and feel, all that sort of stuff. So let's just talk about video podcast studios for a second. We're obviously a video podcast studio, and we know a lot of other studio owners around the country. And, why should somebody use a video podcast studio?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a complex question because there's a lot of different reasons why someone could use a podcast studio. But the biggest reason really is for those of you who are busy people, you need something that saves you time. And I think time savings is the best thing that you can do by going to a studio because usually they'll handle everything for you. Exactly. You just walk in and talk.
Exactly.
But I think there's also something else to the idea of, you know how like company retreats are a thing?
Yeah.
And how they like go out and do something fun as a group and they feel like they're doing something out of their normal work week and it feels connecting and you build relationships, those sort of things. I think podcasting in a studio is the same thing. When you work together in an environment that is built to be creative and have conversation and build into each other and make cool content, and you walk in and have a cool conversation, then walk out and feel energized and like, yeah, let's get back to the workday. Like that's something that happens in a way that having a studio in your office isn't gonna handle.
Yeah.
Like that ability to walk in and feel like this is a distinct, separate place is a big deal.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a good point. It is also fun the amount of times, like whether it's somebody coming in to record for the first time, or we get a studio tour, we end up just sitting in these chairs talking. The amount of times people are like, man, you just got me talking. Like for some reason, like this space, just people start opening up, they start talking.
Yeah.
We've had a couple times where it wasn't a recording, but people are like, shoot, we should have been recording that. Like, this was awesome.
Yeah.
And so having those sorts of conversations, having this setting for those sorts of conversations is awesome. And you do make a good point. Like, I mean, I've been at companies where we've done offsites. We've even done them just going somewhere else, gets you in a different brain space, and sometimes lets you be more creative instead of like when something's so familiar, sometimes it can be like, oh wait, or like where your place of work is, you think about all the things you're having to do, but then when you go someplace else, it kind of breaks you free from that. So that's an awesome point.
I think the weird thing is though is that I think there's some personality type difference to that too, because like on the disc test, you're an S, I'm an I, and it's this like for us going out and doing something and rejuvenating ourselves a little bit, doing something else is a really big deal. For the high Ds, the high Cs, they generally are like, no, this is the job to get done. Let's get it done.
Sure.
And then there's some relationship involved too in it, but it's like, no, let's just get it done.
Sure.
So maybe, honestly, a D or a C may not see a studio as necessary as an I or an S would when they're coming into it. But I do think that the D and the C recognize that there is this whole idea of time savings. And I think that's where they find the value in a space like this.
That's interesting. I'm more familiar with the Enneagram, and I'm like, almost every single type would see this as valuable, but just for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's interesting. So, okay, then here's a question about remote recording, right? So, is doing a remote recording at your office, your home office, is that good enough for a video podcast?
Yes. But the question is it good enough for your brand?
I love that.
I think that there's a whole subcategory of like Zoom-based podcasts that are great. They're incredible. Like Smartless is based over a Zoom style setup. But they're not video. And when they do video, they bring a whole production crew in and they make it this big event and usually invite a ton of people and do it live and, you know, all that sort of thing.
Interesting.
And so I think when I think about a lot of the businesses that we work with, I don't think a Zoom, like remote recorded style podcast represents their brand in a good way. I think that coming into a studio and saying, hey, look, we are awesome. And our video is awesome. And our audio is awesome. And we can be real and authentic and have cool conversations. And it all looks and sounds great. Like that is a really big deal. And we were even talking with a client of ours who said something along the lines of, they did a webinar in our space. And they said, they did a live webinar in our space. And their client said, I'd never seen anyone do it in a studio like that before. And they said from that point on, they would never do a Zoom webinar again.
Exactly.
It was always going to be in studio.
Yes. And
it blew their client away. And we have to think the same way with podcasts. Like it needs to be gorgeous. If your brand is gorgeous. If your brand is big and awesome and noticeable, like a Zoom webinar is going to feel like crap compared to that.
It's going to be subpar. I think there's certain quote unquote brands that are, you know, super scrappy and whatever. So that sort of thing could work. But if that's not your brand, if you're a law firm, if you're, you know, a Fortune 500 company, if if you're honestly, a lot of these mid-level, mid-market like companies and up, like it feels different. So this says whatever you post, whatever you present, it says something about you, right? The way you dress, like I'm wearing a hoodie, I'm wearing boots because it's cold out. I'm wearing a hat, and that says something about our brand, right? And I think there's a little bit of intention behind that. But but we also want things to look really, really good.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're recording on cameras, on cinema grade cameras, and all these different things. So I don't want to like hype up our gear too much, but like, yeah, you have to. I love the question, reframing the question. It's not about, is a remote Zoom-ish Riverside podcast good enough? It's what's good enough for your brand, and then you work your way backwards, because that's really the end result. You have to be building into the brand.
And I think this is an interesting moment to go on a tangent on AI for a second. On my show, the Cincinnati Business Podcast, we had an interesting conversation with Toby Brower. Awesome guy, really great marketer. And one of the things that he said is that AI is training our BS meters to be really, really fast.
Yes.
Like we can pick up on these things so fast. They used to say on shorts that like people will tell within the first 3 seconds if they're interested. It's way less than that now,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Yep.
Like the first second they know if they're
I
interested or
agree.
not. And so for us, when I think about like AI marketing or AI or even just Zoom webinars, people's BS meters just they click off.
Yep.
They are like, no, I'm not gonna watch some Zoom thing. It's probably not gonna be valuable because I think there's some sort of rationale in their head where they're like, oh, they didn't put a lot of effort into this, so then why should I pay attention to it?
Mm,
Is like what I hear in my head sometimes. And
yeah.
I love podcasts and I
Right.
love how people do remote shows.
Yep.
Like they works really great.
Yep.
But I do tend to discount those
Yep.
a lot quicker.
Yep. To be honest, unless they're done in a studio.
Unless they're done in a studio. Yeah.
Because side note, we can do that. But yeah, there's an element of it, feel like there's tiers, right? There's the uh in-person video podcast done in a studio,
Yeah.
right? Then there's like remote stuff, but it's done in a studio.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the remote stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to be careful. Like you just have to know where you're at,
Yeah.
where your brand is along that scale,
Yeah.
and act accordingly.
Because it was interesting when to hit that middle tier you just talked about.
Yeah.
Colin and Samir did an interview with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And I know everyone jokes about Zuckerberg being a robot already or an alien or something weird. Like, but the thing is the way that they filmed it, they were all in separate studios, but it felt really weird.
Yep.
There was something about like, why? Oh, is Mark actually a robot? Like it was, you weren't sure when you were
Sure.
watching it
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
felt like a robot.
Right.
He was looking directly into the lens, which doesn't feel like a Zoom thing. And he was looking, and it didn't feel like he was looking at you though. It was weird. And
Mhm.
so there was this kind of thing to it where it just doesn't feel authentic connection. Like it is missing that piece that you really, really want in these sort of conversations. The give and take, it had the millisecond delay of being online, all those things. Anything you can do to avoid all those things that pull people out of the engagement in the episode.
Yeah.
If you can just remove those things from the
Yeah.
process, it'll be 10 times better.
Yeah. And it's just, it's about removing barriers. We're not saying it can't work. It's just, if you know what those barriers are and you can kind of make the call, it's like counting the cost, right? It is the juice worth the squeeze. Like is this what we're good with
Mhm.
because of who we are, what we're trying to accomplish? And then sometimes it has to do with scheduling and whatever resources. But yeah, no, that makes you make a really good point. Now, this is something you and I have talked about a lot. We've talked with clients about this, and it's the idea around custom backgrounds for your show.
Mhm.
Do they matter or do they not?
There are different stages at which they matter.
Mm,
I think if you are doing a Joe Rogan-esque show with that many views and that many eyeballs just paying attention to it, then maybe you need a red curtain in the background. and that becomes your brand. And
Which
the
talk about a low budget custom
I
background.
know, right? Yeah, yeah, my goodness. But I think generally speaking, as you and I are mostly talking with businesses
Yeah,
and they're dealing with trying to understand how to do their own show,
yeah,
most of those audiences don't cross over. Like if say you and I, as the Cincinnati podcast studio, actually had a market penetration rate of like 10% of businesses
right,
in Cincinnati, that still wouldn't have a ton of overlap in customers
right.
or in other businesses that they're sending the content to. So most of the time, not really. Now, the only people out there are people who are good fans of ours who would recognize the space that we're filming in. They're
Yeah,
like, oh, they're at the podcast studio. Awesome.
right.
And then they won't care a bit
Y-
the rest of the time.
yeah,
No
right.
one really cares.
Yeah,
There is an element of branding where if it's really a part of your brand that you are hardcore into branding everything
yeah,
and everything has a distinct look and
yep,
feel and flavor, then yeah, maybe that makes sense that you want a custom background.
right.
And often that's where like guys like you and I say, okay, build a studio in your space
Mm-hmm.
and do it live in that space.
Sure.
But generally, most of the time, you don't need to spend 50 grand on a studio build out.
Right.
Like, just come to a studio, have them do it for you.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to hire people to run it. You don't have to do all
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
So, in my head, custom backgrounds, not really that big of a deal until your audience size demands it.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand wanting to look different, feel different, that kind of a thing. Um Actually, it's really funny because like our studio is actually pretty unique when you look at the other studios across the country because
Hmm.
a lot of them will have kind of a similar look, and it's the podcast look, right?
Yeah.
This space is actually like a little different, which I love personally. Enneagram 4, but the I think it's just like, what does it accomplish, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's always the biggest thing is when we ask these questions, it's like, well, why? What does it accomplish? If you don't get that custom background, what does it actually do to your brand?
Hmm.
Is it actually a negative? How? Okay. Well, if it actually is, if you can identify that it is a negative and how it is, then it's like cool. Like then you can figure it out. But if you can't actually define it, then
Hmm.
maybe it doesn't matter. And maybe it's just a gut feeling
Yeah.
that we want to be unique. It's like, yes, I get it. I totally get it. You know what's going to be super unique? Your content,
Hmm.
your people, how you present. Um,
Hmm.
and if you come here, we have color changing lights. We can mix things up a bit. When certain clients come in here, I mean, it's like this whole place is purple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just kind of depends. But yeah, I would just say why what does it accomplish for you? What is it actually a net negative? And how? If you can identify that, then yes, probably need a custom background. If not, it's maybe not as big of a deal yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one on the list is kind of a technical question, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious your creative thought on it. I know it's kind of been defined by the way that I do things,
Yeah.
but a lot of people kind of ask about like how should we edit a podcast,
Mm,
and I think there's a lot of different schools of thought in that.
yep.
And I think the definitions are shifting a little bit. I
Yep.
think we've even had conversations about how we're going to change,
Exactly.
and people have probably seen that the intros on this episode are different than what
They used
previous
to be.
episodes be.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I'm curious, like, what do you see as the most valuable parts of a podcast,
Mhm.
um, specifically when it comes to the editing?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll have you maybe speak to exactly how we edit, but I think the parts that I appreciate the most are the hook. So that kind of 30 seconds before the episode. Can you give me why I should watch this in 30
Mhm.
seconds. Because I'm about ready to commit 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours to listening to this. In 30 seconds, can you hook me with what this is going to be about? And this isn't clickbait. This is like literally like clips from the episode. If you can do that, then like I'm in. So that part is really important, and that's a part of what we do. I think overall, like I don't like really super edited content. Um, I want the conversation to keep moving. I want things to be valuable. So that's 100% a thing. But I don't care if there's, a pause here or there. I don't care if because people are thinking, especially half the time when those pauses happen, it's because the host just asked a really good question that makes the guest think. And so I'm willing to forgive a little bit of a pause for a thoughtful response. So,
Yeah.
and it just feels like like I just love listening to people, and it just feels like a normal conversation that I'd be sitting like we're sitting here and I'm watching two people at a coffee shop, at a bar, over at a fire, like around a fire, just like talking about something, right?
Yeah.
And it's like those are the things I really love. Um, so yeah, I like that. I obviously like we have multiple cameras in the space, so I think when you have multiple people, having one camera isn't ideal. I really like having the close-ups of the person talking, because then I can see their facial expressions better. um, and I really rely on facial expressions, so that's helpful. Yeah, I think those are some of the things I really appreciate about editing, and I think that's why we've sort of brought that into what we do as well.
I think an interesting term that I hear in the industry is called retention editing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that so many people go after is how can I captivate for the next 5 seconds, the
Yep.
next 5 seconds, the next
Yep.
5 seconds. And I think we do some of that.
Specifically in the hook.
In the hook at the
Yeah.
beginning, we try to make it really, really interesting.
Yep.
But like you were talking about multicam, like we change camera sources about every 20 seconds at least
Yep.
to just keep the variety flowing,
Yep.
keep people visually interested.
Yep.
And then that tells the algorithms on social media that, hey, this person's watching for longer. This may be more
Yeah.
valuable. Let's recommend it to more people.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, like I agree with you. The real authentic conversation is amazing. Like gone are the days of podcasts, in my opinion, that remove all the ums, ands, buts, pauses, whatever.
Yep.
Like all that stuff I think should stay.
Yeah. The removing those things are for audible recordings. They are not for podcasts.
Yeah. Yes, yes. And I think there's something to be said that current people value authenticity more than polish. So
Mm,
when people walk into like a studio, they can get some form of polish
yeah.
with a real form of authenticity at the same time.
Yeah.
So it can be really nice cameras and it can be the pauses too. And it can be the coughs in the middle or it can
Yeah.
be whatever because it feels like it's real.
Yeah.
And when you leave those things in, it also makes people think that you aren't removing things from the show that they may have wanted to know in the first place. Like you're not
Mm,
censoring yourself, you're not getting in the way of the content.
yeah.
Because there are times where, like, I look at some of the biggest podcasters in the world, and I'm like, "Well, what did you cut right there?
Yeah.
What was there that
We
you took out?"
That goes back to that BS meter. Like
Yeah,
you like after a while, it's like you kind of understand like that was not the next sentence.
no, that was not what you just were gonna
Yeah.
say. And so I think it's really important from my perspective of podcast right
Yeah.
now that you do a lot more stream of thought, real conversational style podcasting that doesn't worry about all the polish
Yep.
other than making it look good and sound good.
Yep.
Because people will tune out if those things are missing. But otherwise, just let it be.
Yeah.
Let it flow.
And unless you said something that's gonna be crazy detrimental and you just let it slip, I agree.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the only time we ever really cut things is like, oh shoot, like they really shouldn't have said that, and they like realize it afterwards or whatever. It's like, okay, like cool, we'll cut that. But yeah, for the most part, we're like, just let it be. It's
Yeah.
great. Like people want to hear the realness of that.
So here's a scavenger hunt for all of you guys listening. About 10 minutes ago in this conversation, we actually cut out a section of the podcast. Do you know what it is? Do you know where it is?
You should
Comment below.
That's right. I love it. I love it. Talk about retention. Video needs to do something for your business. And here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we create video content that helps people know, like, and trust you because it's you on camera. We love talking head video content, whether it's podcast format, webinars, or other social media content. We want to feature the people behind the brands because we believe that when people see your face and hear what you think, that will attract the right kind of customer. If you're a CEO, a thought leader, a marketer here in the Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, I'd love to talk with you. Just book a discovery call today at cincinnatipodcaststudio.com/discovery or click the link in the description. Publishing cadence and distribution. How often should we post the full episodes or versus shorts? So, how often should we post full episodes versus shorts?
I think full episodes, generally speaking, don't have to be as often as people think. I think most businesses need a maximum of one a week. Most businesses, unless if they're trying to create a
Agreed.
sub brand with their show,
Right.
of long format episode a week.
Yep.
Now, I would generally say even some of the biggest creators in the world who are not businesses, they create on an every 2 week schedule. Generally speaking, they don't usually do weekly content.
Right.
Now, again, if you're trying to grow a brand specifically around your podcast, weekly shows are amazing.
Yep.
But
I would actually say it's necessary if you're trying to really get awareness and grow.
Yes, and that's how you get subscribers the fastest. But if you're doing an every other week show or something like that, you need to be able to still create enough content out of that long format show that you post daily.
Yep.
So for this show, we post every single day, even though these episodes only come out once every 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we just make a ton of shorts out of it so that we're constantly engaging the audience. We get a lot more subscribers that way. We get a lot more views on what we do that way. And I mean, this is a terrible way to put it, but the more times you pull the lever on a slot machine, the more likely you'll actually hit gold.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so the same way comes with short form content. When you're posting daily short form content, you may hit a good vein somewhere and get a ton of views, and your business could explode overnight. Literally.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where, I agree. I almost feel like there's this minimum cadence of every other week. Ideally, you're every week, but minimum, like for a lot of our clients, like every other week is probably good so that you can create that everyday sort of posting. This is just like proof in the pudding, right? Like I'm using all these idioms. It's funny. I'm like, you normally do that. That's strange. Cameras
This is
and
your
lights.
podcast voice,
Right?
apparently. Yeah.
Weird. Okay. Literally what we do is we post every day. And so the comments we get are every time I open LinkedIn, we see you.
Every time.
And in my view, that is what the shorts are for, is awareness. I want people to see our faces. I want us to be associated with high quality video content that shows people's faces in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And like, if we're doing that and it seems like we are, like that's a huge win.
Yeah.
When I'm connecting with people on LinkedIn or whatever, it's like they will see a huge catalog of stuff because we're just constantly posting.
Yes.
And so if awareness is the thing, you need to be posting at least once a day to actually get the kind of awareness as quickly as
Mhm.
possible.
Well, and here's a little marketing tip that we've learned from Gary Vee
Mm,
is as you're doing all these pieces of content and just daily posting, what you're trying to do is one, you're training an algorithm, but
yeah.
two, you're trying to see what organically gets a lot of traffic.
Yep.
And
What
those things
hits.
that organically get a lot of traffic, that's when you put ad dollars behind them
Right.
because those are going to be your best performing pieces of content,
Exactly.
especially if they're directly connected to your brand. So, like, I had a clip on my show go really viral,
Yeah.
but it wasn't about our brand. So we couldn't
Totally.
put the money behind it.
Right. Right.
But it was about somebody else's brand.
Yeah.
So I said, start putting the money behind this. Like,
Yeah.
you got to turn this into marketing material because it will perform.
Exactly.
And so when you think about it as a marketer, you're trialing a lot of different styles of content at once. And then you get the opportunity to say, like, oh, that one popped off. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's turn this
Exactly.
into something that can be high conversion for possible sales down the road.
Right. I love it. I think that's why it's really important. We talk about evaluating and iterating. Like, you have to be evaluating what's working
Mhm.
and just riffing off of that. Stop doing the things that don't work. Keep double down on the things that do work.
But it's important to note that when you are evaluating, views don't mean everything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, then what are the things that people should evaluate?
Yeah. So the big thing really is am I hitting what my goals are?
Okay.
Like whatever the goals were that you set for the show,
Yep.
like am I hitting those goals? Two, am I feeling happy with the content that I'm producing? I
Mm,
think there's a feeling component involved inside of
mm,
that. And then third, if there's like a specific business objective that you're trying to hit, like this rolls back to the first point, but like if there's a specific business objective that you can tie to the podcast,
yeah.
you need to make sure that that is being hit by with whatever the content is you're producing.
Right.
So when you're looking through it and you're like, oh, I kind of half-assed that episode
Yeah.
and content didn't turn out great and shorts didn't turn out great. And guess what? No one watched them. Well, then you know, okay,
Yeah.
next time I need to prepare more.
Yep.
And I think it's that kind of combination of that plus knowing what your end goal that we've talked about in previous episodes of like know your end goal, know what the strategy is, know what
Yeah.
your preferred outcome of this is,
Yeah.
and then do everything you can to pivot towards that. Do it. Don't do the stuff that doesn't get you there.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. All right. Internal buy-in,
Mm,
stakeholder management,
man, what are we? Fortune 500 here?
right?
Man.
So, somebody has come to us, and says, "I'm a marketer. I really think my CEO should do a podcast. He or she is awesome. Uh they would do well on camera. They're not 100% convinced that this is what they should do. How do I convince them this is what they should do?" What are some of your thoughts that what are
Yeah.
some of the thoughts that pop up when you hear that dilemma?
I think an interesting thing that I've seen is that some of the biggest companies in the world, we used to know them as companies. Now they are often known by their CEOs.
Mm,
And
right.
so
Like I was actually thinking, like, as you were talking, it's like Chipotle, Starbucks, Microsoft, Apple, like
Nvidia,
Facebook. Yeah, like
yes.
all these different, it's like, oh, you're right. Like, I actually know these CEOs now, but like I wouldn't have years ago.
And a lot of the time it's because they recognize the value of a person at a brand instead of just a brand. And so if I were that marketer,
Mhm.
there would be a couple different things that I would say. I'd say one, the personal brand of the CEO is often tied very closely to the brand of this company.
Yeah.
So why not use them together?
Yeah.
Like if there's already this awesome congruency between them,
Yep.
that should turn into content.
Yep.
The other is if you're a highly relational organization,
Mm,
then your brand should reflect that.
for sure.
And so if you have the ability to create a podcast with the CEO,
Yeah.
then do it because then it will showcase who the human is behind everything. Like I was talking with somebody the other day Ryan, when he stopped by the studio the other day, and he helped them start a podcast for Jolly Plumbing down in
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yep.
And they said that the podcast itself was kind of it was a marketing machine. They used it for a lot of content, and it was interesting for their clients to get to know people and all that sort of thing. One of the biggest value adds that it had to their company was the fact that the CEO would sit down with an employee for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and have a conversation about the company
Yep.
and about why they do what they do and what they love about the company. And it built a lot of team trust
Yeah.
in a really interesting way
That was so cool.
where the employee is raised up
Yep.
and is put on a platform
That they would not have otherwise.
No, and they feel valued
Yeah.
because I also get to have time with the CEO.
Right.
And so I think there's this this measurement of how relational your CEO is.
Mm.
Because yes, they could be dynamic all they want, but if they don't have that relationship skill,
Yeah.
they're not going to be great at podcasts.
For sure.
And so there's a lot of different things you can sell them on. But if the CEO recognizes that their brand is also the
Yeah.
business's brand, then a really good mesh of those two things is a podcast.
Yeah. I like that. The CEO, I think part of what's important is to go back to what does the CEO value, and what do they value in general, but also for the company. And if if there's a way to tie in how, if there's a way to say, hey, video podcasting will accomplish your goals, I think that's a perfect thing. And I really like, though, that, so I like starting there, but I really like what you were saying about their personal brand, because I think when we're talking about the leadership of a company, this goes more towards, if you're trying to maybe make the podcast more like, the CEO is the thought leader, the subject matter expert, right?
Mhm.
Kind of making it their thing, or they're the face of it, at least. Um, there's something about hearing how they think, how they operate, what they value, that is going to help boost the brand of the company, because you're hearing what the leadership is wanting, and then maybe how that trickles down or whatever. But then you'll start associating the principles, the values, the thought processes of this person into what the company is. And
Mm.
that is going to, like, for me, that takes uh an Apple to Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, right? That takes, um it just makes it more human and almost more, I don't know, like, real and dynamic, and like, okay, that there's like, there's thoughts and actual uh things happening here. The I think the thing I'm trying to describe is like, it's partially like our vision statement, no faceless companies. And I think so often when we see a logo, we don't see the people behind it. But the people behind it actually make it way cooler than anything else.
Mhm.
And they're the ones that are driving the meaning behind that logo.
Mhm.
So the logo is like gonna stay no matter who's in charge and who's running it, whatever. But there's a flavor of that company. There's a gut reaction, a sense. The brand is really either uh negatively or positively charged by the leadership. And anyways, yeah. So I was
I
just,
think that's interesting, and I think the other thing that I'm kind of thinking about is when I think about sales processes.
mm,
Yes, people buy from Amazon,
yeah.
but when businesses make deals, they buy in relationship.
Mm,
They don't buy because I mean, like if you're a toilet paper manufacturer, then
sure.
yeah, you'll buy a bunch of toilet paper from
Right.
because you know
Right.
it fits your
Yeah.
dispenser and you're fine. Great.
Yep.
Okay. But if I'm trying to buy 30 kilos of steel
Yep.
and I need to find the right distributor, like I'm going to care a lot more about the relationship I have with the salesman,
Mhm.
with the company,
Yep.
than I do about like just Googling something and try and find it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think it's really important that as a brand, people recognize that relationship and humanity is important in the sales process. So if they can convince the CEO that there will be more people who would buy from us if they feel like they know and understand who the person is leading this company,
Yeah.
then I think it's going to be a huge win for the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I would even say, so a lot of our clients are more like mid-market folks, right? I would even just like put a plug in for fractional people here,
Mm,
because I almost think what you're saying there is like quadruply enhanced when we're talking about fractional CMOs, CEOs, the COOs, like all these different people. When you're a fractional leader, they will be in it for you.
mhm.
So to be able to kind of give people a peek behind the curtain of what it's like to work with you before they do it, I think is going to be pretty critical for a lot of, and I know in
Yeah.
Cincinnati there's a big boom and a big movement around fractional companies. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
um that was just something else I was thinking through.
Mm,
um
yeah.
okay, let's kind of land the plane a bit with just like money.
Oh, right.
So,
That's a good one to start with or end
in
with.
we talk mostly about business podcasting, right? That's most of our clients. Um, Money is a big deal. ROI, monetization, how this actually works. Um, Now, there are also some people here that also like they come in because they're trying to get on more podcasts or whatever it is. But for those who are, yeah, in this for trying to make this something that makes them money, let's talk about that. So this question is, should we run ads slash have sponsors, or is it better just to have the podcast as a lead gen asset?
I don't know if there's any right or wrong
Okay.
in either option because, yeah, you can make money through ad sales and
Yep.
stuff like that. But we talk about on this show all the time the idea of making a podcast that joins and helps sell something else, not selling the podcast.
Hmm.
And so when you talk about selling ad time, I think it's valuable,
Yeah.
especially if you know you have an audience that is important and like the ads are relevant to the people who would be listening to your
Yes.
podcast. But generally speaking, if we're talking to businesses, lead gen is the thing.
Yep.
Lead gen is definitely the thing.
Yep.
And so for me, I say, can you create ways that you are engaging with your viewers, with your
Yeah.
audience, that helps them understand the value of whatever the service is you're actually trying to sell?
Mm,
So be it free things you give away, like
yep.
lead generation things, like a
Yep.
PDF, of course, so
Yep.
whatever. Or is it, hey, I'm so glad that you guys are listening. This has been great. Please drop your comments below.
Yep.
And because here's our next guest that we're going to have on the show. You want to talk to them? Leave your comments and we'll
Right.
get to hear from them next week.
Yep.
Like building this army of people who think that your content is valuable, but also that your
Mm,
business is valuable.
hmm.
I think that's a really important thing to do. And generally speaking, in the business world, 1,000 subscribers is massive.
Yeah.
So, but for ad sponsor buys, 1,000 subscribers is nothing.
No. Yeah.
And so, in the world of selling ad revenue,
Yeah.
like you have to be massive
Yep.
to make any money with it.
Yep. Yeah. I think another question I think about is going back to the brand question: does this help or hurt your brand? And does it get muddy if this is a business podcast? Does it get muddy if you start then having ads on your podcast, sure, it might help pay for it, but who's actually getting the value? Who is this actually the attention? Where is it being directed? And so if so Stephen Bartlett, you know, he's sort of an outlier in that
Mhm.
he is an investor in a bunch of companies. So he can run a bunch of different ads and they all benefit him, right? If you if you have one company and you're getting ads from others, it's kind of like, well, is it actually helping
You're
you?
almost selling other
Yeah,
products, like,
exactly. It's
instead of
like
your own.
because
Yeah.
it's a platform, right? So you're platforming others
Yeah.
versus now we do have one client who, while he's the CEO of a couple companies, what's interesting about him is he's almost got like, so he's got his companies, which all tie into this larger movement, right? And this bigger idea. And he will have people on his show. He will partner with people because they're about that bigger idea, right?
Mhm.
And so there's an element where it's like strategic partnerships because they align with your brand and they help promote something bigger that all of you are about. That's another conversation and a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And I would say that those aren't ads, those aren't sponsors, those are partnerships.
Mhm.
And I like the way he's thinking about it because he's actually trying he's trying to build up his podcast to be the biggest one in the area for this niche, right? But he's also making these strategic partnerships to make sure that, like, look, you're not just like set and forget it, putting an ad on the show. I'm gonna bring you on. I'm gonna
Mhm.
platform you
Mhm.
because we are all about this bigger thing. And I think that's one way it can work for some of these larger brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
All right. Are there ways that podcasts help with recruitment for
Yeah,
all
I
you
mean,
HR people out there?
I know. The yes, podcasts help with that absolutely because the majority of people nowadays, while they do care about what the salary is
Yeah.
listed on the job description, they also care about the company culture.
Yep.
And it's been said so many times, but you can't hide who you are in this style of long
Yeah.
format podcasting.
Yeah.
Like people will figure it out pretty quickly.
Yep.
And so when you're talking about, hey, I want to increase recruiting, like I want to have more people in our organization, like great, start a podcast and talk about your values.
Yeah.
Talk about why things are important. Talk about things that what you do in the hiring process even, or what is your ethos behind like why you have such a great retention rate at your organization. Like talk about those sort of things so that people who are listening actually start to recognize, oh, hey, this is a company that I actually feel like I could work for.
Yes. Yes. I love it because I so I've got uh an example. This wasn't a podcast, but this is something that leans into what you were saying. So a while back, I used to work for this explainer video company, and before I started working there, I watched a YouTube video of sort of a walkthrough of one of the employees. It was like their first day or something, and so they like did a video of the place and whatever, and I got to see a little bit behind the scenes, right? And it made me feel a lot more comfortable going into this new position because it's like, okay, this is the vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, more important than the space, the physical location you're at, especially if you have any remote people, or you have multiple locations, to be able to hear the heart of and the ethos of the leadership and things like that, that's going to be huge. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, goes back to sharing the mindset and all that, like, it will help with recruiting, it will help with sales, it will help you get the right people to work for you and to pay you to work to do
Absolutely.
whatever services and whatever for them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's a no-brainer. It works really, really well. There's so many shows that I know of that are internal audio podcasts that are all about the culture of the company, especially in larger companies.
yeah,
Like they do that all the time, and
yeah,
because it really works. You get to know other people inside the organization you may not have known before.
yeah,
You feel like you have relationship with them even though you don't really, but then you have something to talk about when you run into them in the hall. Like it's all valuable. It really is.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, on kind of diving, I started to allude to sales. How would video podcasting help sales enablement? So, your your sales team, how does a video podcast actually help them do their job better?
Well, there's a lot of different things you can do. I mean, one of the ways is that you invite prospects onto your show.
Mm,
That's one way
yep,
you can do it. So like the show is all about having conversations with manufacturers who need plastic pellets, and you sell those plastic pellets. And so you just talk to all
you
those
can tell
people.
Brian's been thinking about manufacturing a lot.
I have been thinking about manufacturing a lot. And you can think about how, like, okay, great. I want to talk to all these people. I want to
Yeah.
find out about their pain points, why
Mhm.
their business does what they do, what they're excited about. You get to have all those sort of a conversations, package it into a podcast. They get to promote themselves with it, and you get to some promotion too and build relationship. That's a great way to do it.
And that's like really good research, market
Oh,
research.
yeah.
When if you're asking about pains,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's huge.
But then the other way that you can look at it too is if you're specifically trying to sell culture as a part of what you're
Mm,
selling
yeah,
with your business, using the podcast and clipping out sections of the podcast that you send in a sales email
yeah,
to somebody else and say like, hey, you and I talked about this when we were on the phone the other day, and we talked about uh, temperature stuff for your thermostats that you were dealing with. Like, hey, we talked about that.
yeah,
We talked about why we designed it that way.
yep,
If you're interested, here's the guy who made it. Listen to what he said.
yep, yep,
And like doing those sort of things, it creates a library of content that when
yeah,
people have questions,
yep,
you say, "Oh, don't listen to me. I'm just
yep,
a sales guy.
yep,
Like here's the expert who designed it. Talk
yep,
to him.
yep.
Like listen to him."
They said it really, really well. They explained it way better than I could.
Mhm.
Check this out.
Yeah.
And they're a part of our company.
And even it was really cool. We had a great local guy reach out to us asking if we could help with some like basically some consulting about how to make a podcast better.
Mm,
And we didn't have the time at the moment, but the thing that we were able to say is like, hey, we have this whole archive of podcasts that we did that talk about exactly what you're trying to learn.
yeah,
Feel free to listen. It's free online on
yep,
YouTube. Like we would love for you to listen. If you have any questions, let us know.
yep,
And those sort of ways that you can do that, you're still developing relationship,
yeah,
even when you have to say no to somebody. You're
yep,
like, actually, but here's a yes at
yes.
the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can, I think that's why sometimes like FAQ content or even just talking about whatever it is that you do. Sometimes a whole episode is what people need, and sometimes it is just a clip. So making sure that you are repurposing it is actually pretty important.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I love that. All right. So final question. What offer should we pair with the episodes? So, what's the call to action here? This is something I've
Yeah.
been thinking a lot about. Um, I used to be the director of communications at my church, and one of the things that I would always say is that I want to create understanding and provoke action. There's a piece of it's like nudging people towards a direction. So they have information. What do they do with what they just heard, right?
Hmm.
And uh, I think sometimes information can almost be like a kind of fuel for things. And so once they have that fuel, where should they point the steering wheel, right? Where should they point the nose of the plane? Like whatever analogy, like where should they go with what they've just been told? So what are some of your ideas about kind of what offer people should pair with their podcast?
Well, I think it's important just to say to start, there needs to be an offer that is paired to this
Yes.
because we're not Apple, we're not Nike. The fact that we put our logo on a screen doesn't automatically mean sales. Like, that's not
Nailed
how it
it.
works.
Right.
And so for us, we need to find a way to be able to create something of value that is beyond just our podcast
Yeah.
that provokes people to action, like you
Right.
just said. And so be it one of those kind of scheduled webinar things. They can schedule a time, they're into this recorded webinar and they learn more about your services. Be it a PDF to do DIY something. Be it actually, I love PDFs for DIY because it creates a process for them to figure out how hard the work actually is. And if you sell the solution to that,
Yep.
boom,
Right.
you're making money right there.
Yep.
Yeah, enable the DIY. Why not?
Yeah.
But also then say, but we can do it for you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
anyway, I think that's a
So
really
that's
smart.
a two-step offer.
I think it is.
So make sure you have that a DIY enablement PDF or whatever.
Yeah.
But then like it has to be super easy and super clear and super obvious. If this is too much, we got you.
Yeah, like
That's great.
big bold print at the bottom of the PDF.
Yes.
I think you can always do things like free audits. You can do things like consultations, all those sort
Yeah.
of things. But the Hermosi once said this, and I really liked it. He said, "Give away things that scale, things that don't, sell them."
That's great.
And so, if you have to put manpower behind something,
Yeah.
you have to sell that as a product.
Hmm.
But if it's something that just is a PDF that sits on your website and it takes no more effort to sell it or not to sell it,
Yep.
then great.
Yep.
Give it away.
Yep.
Let people have that information. I mean, the interesting thing is he specifically sells millions of books, and yet you can technically get his entire book library for free
Yep.
on his podcast because
Yep.
he puts the audiobook on his
He
podcast.
does.
So like he recognizes that once it's created, it's just a value asset that he can share with people and they
Right.
get more invested in his content, in
Yeah.
his business. The same thing happens for anyone who's creating their own show. The
Yeah.
more value assets that you can give away
Yep.
and help people think through other things slightly differently, how to do their business differently, how to make their life easier,
Yeah.
those all count as a win. And if you can get a name and an email associated with it,
Right.
dope. They're on a
Right.
newsletter now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like they're in your pipeline.
Yes. And I think there's a couple pieces I want to highlight. One, make sure it's valuable,
Mhm.
like you were saying. Make sure it's actually valuable. I think I love AI. There are a lot of people out there who will say, "Oh, just throw it in a chat GPT and it'll spit out a book as if it's magic." And I'm like, it won't spit out a valuable piece of content without a lot of work.
Mhm.
So make sure that whatever it is you are giving is valuable. It will be associated with your brand. So if it's not valuable, they will associate not valuable with your brand.
Yeah.
And so that's a really big piece. And yeah, I think part of what I'm thinking through is what is the very next step for them, right?
Mhm.
That's maybe what the lead magnet is. What's your very next step? Um, if somebody is consuming your content and your content is ultimately pointing to something, what is step one that everybody needs to take? Maybe it's a newsletter that people will be getting value from, or maybe it's once you sign up for the newsletter, then you're able to get
Yep.
this specific PDF or something. It just, you can create different tools with AI that could be valuable for your customer. Just really depends. It it always goes back to what is your end goal, but I also like what you said, like make it something that's scalable. Don't make it some crazy, like I feel like it's like the Patreon syndrome where it's like you try too hard to give too many things away for the different tiers of people who sign up. And it's like, just make it something that is really valuable, but scalable, and you'll be good.
Yeah. Like one of our clients does a on-demand webinar
Yeah.
where it's kind of just like
Perfect.
it's going at 3 times a day. Sign up for one of these times. It's not actually live,
Yep.
but it's nicely packaged, pre-recorded, ready for you to go.
Yeah.
So those sort of things is like anything that's scalable, give it away.
Yep.
Give it away. Let people have it. The more value they find in you in free, they'll also say, that was pretty great. Let me buy from them too.
Yeah.
Because they're awesome at what they do.
It's like the whole jab, 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 right hook thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
give, then ask.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Those were all of our, that was the list, the final list of about 20 FAQ, top FAQ questions. All right, so I again made a joke about Brian hitting on manufacturing. So we're probably going to do an episode on how video podcasting works for manufacturing. But if there is a specific industry that you are curious about and we have not yet hit on it, let us know. We will come up with ideas for how video podcasting actually works specifically for that industry. We're actually pretty stoked about that idea. And
here's our call to action.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're in the Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and you're a CEO, you're a marketer, you're a thought leader, keynote speaker, someone who is trying to invest into their personal or business brand, I would love to talk with you. We think video podcasting is one of the absolute best ways of growing your brand over time, because we think that when people see your face and hear how you think, you will attract the right kind of client. So if you want to learn more about how video podcasting can do that, let's set up a discovery call. Just go to cincinnatipodcaststudio.com/discovery or click the link in the description. And I want to thank you so much for your time, attention, and trust, and we'll see you next time.